back to Ruben Uncut. This is part 2 of Anna Kasparian Wrecks Pearl Davis, aka Pearly Things. Part 1, of course, was the opening interrogations. Now we're going to get into the open debate. So please stick around and check it out if this is the type of thing you like to see.
All right, 30 minutes on the clock, and let's begin the open debate. Pearl, I'll let you pick up here. Go ahead.
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are consequences for it, especially when there's a court order for them to carry out their responsibility and pay child support so that child can be raised.
And what happens
Do you
if they
think
don't
there shouldn't be legal responsibilities or legal consequences if they fail to carry out a court order to, you know, take care of their kids?
I've interviewed men that have paid millions of dollars in
Don't
child
care about your
support
interviews. Anecdotal evidence doesn't matter. What I need is actual, statistic, empirical evidence.
Percentage of times men get custody in disputed custody battles.
While mothers are often awarded custody, fathers who actively seek it often win the majority of contested cases, with some analyses showing success rates over 90%. This is because fathers who fight for custody are often more involved.
All right, so I don't necessarily trust that statistics, but it sounds like according to that, only 4% of men pursue custody in a disputed custody case. And the 4% who do pursue it, 90% of those men win. Like I said, I don't know if I trust Google's overview, but that is actually devastating data to her.
They should pay their child support. $441
What happens?
is the average child support payment. $441 a month.
Yeah, that's for someone that makes $24,000 a year.
You just told me a woman can just go to work and take care of the kids totally by herself.
Why doesn't the man get a higher paying job? See, that's the problem with that argument. You can just flip it on him.
How does a guy live when he's paying $500 a month on $24,000 a year?
Get a higher paying job. Also, I would love to be making $24,000 a year.
You think $500 a month is too much in child support? Do you know how much?
That would still, let's see here, hold on. You're getting $24,000 a year, and we'll assume that's after taxes, just to make the math easier. So that would be $2,000 a month. So that's only 1/4 of the amount of money that they would make. Yeah, no, I'd love that. That'd be great. I mean, I'm poor, but, you know, I could live on that poor.
It costs to raise a child. Do you know how much childcare costs, for instance? I mean, that mother has to go to work, right? Where's the kid going to stay while that mother is working? How is she going to pay for the
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
Sorry, say that again?
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are legal repercussions for not carrying out a court mandate to do something.
Do you think that fraud should be illegal?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fraud is illegal. Even basic fraud will open you up to the bare minimum civil litigation.
Okay. So why is it not illegal for women to fraud men on paternity? If a man does not find out he's the father over the age of 2, he is on the hook for child support for 18 years.
I don't know what the law is when it comes to that. But it's wrong. If you're lying about paternity, that is wrong, and there should be legal consequences for that.
Why haven't feminists fought?
It's that simple.
Then why aren't feminists fighting for it, Anna?
Because feminists fight for women, obviously.
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
At the expense of men.
But that's not technically women. That doesn't actually verify that argument. Women not fighting for this specific issue that faces men is not women actively fighting against men. That's not how that works. She hasn't established what feminists do that actively undercuts men.
That's my You guys want to believe women at the expense of men. Why isn't Amber Heard in jail? Because of the Me.
Amber Heard is not in jail because that was a civil trial, you dumb bitch. That wasn't a... That was literally... No one in that case went to jail. What? It was a civil trial. It was a married couple suing each other. No one went to jail. What? Oh, damn, Pearl, you dumb as fuck.
Me Too movement. You guys pushed believing all rape victims, and now we have rape.
Amber Heard had to pay out a massive settlement.
Oh, that's right. Amber Heard lost. Amber Heard lost that case, Pearl. Oh my God.
Yeah, but why isn't she in jail?
Because it's a civil trial. Jesus Christ.
Want her in jail?
Yes.
Well,
he ruined his
the penalties
life.
for defamation.
She didn't ruin his life. Johnny Depp is a rich white guy with friends. He'll be back in movies in no time.
Are what the court's decision is, right? You want people to go to prison for defamation?
He had to go to 2 different countries to clear his name. Why isn't she in jail? He lost millions of dollars.
To be clear,
in a civil trial between 2 people who were both shitty to each other. Let's be real here. I'm not here to defend Amber Heard. And I'm not here to defend Johnny Depp. I looked at what both of them said. It sounds like they both were just shitty people who should not have been together.
You think the penalty for defamation is prison time?
I think the penalty for a false accusation is that the woman should get the same time that he would have gotten if he was found guilty.
He wasn't gonna get time. It was a civil trial. If I'm wrong on that, someone leave a comment correcting me on whether or not the case against Johnny Depp was criminal or not. And got a monetary payout. That would indicate to me that it was a civil trial, Pearl.
Men don't go to prison for defamation.
And see, this is
one guy clapping real fucking hard.
This is the problem with feminists. You want all these freedoms, but you won't actually be equal.
Not even addressing.
I do want equality.
No, if you wanted to be equal, you would fight for 50-50 child support, no alimony.
People do fight for 50-50 child support. That's the type of thing that happens on an individual basis. And we've already established that 40% of the time it is 50-50 custody. And 20% of the time, the men get full custody. We already went over these numbers earlier. If I got the numbers mixed up, let me know.
No alimony. So
the no alimony thing is also capitalistically stupid.
Again, if a woman decided to forego working, decided to stay home to raise the children, and the marriage doesn't...
You know what system wouldn't need alimony? Communism. I'm just saying.
Doesn't work out. She's got no income whatsoever. She doesn't deserve any alimony.
Women aren't even doing that. Number one, that's not even women are not staying home with the kids. And number two, you have daycare.
A lot of women do these days, actually.
Women stay home. There are plenty of women who stay home with the kids. It's a ridiculous statement, Pearl.
Daycare
the traditional women who want to stay home, they want to be traditional wives. You trash them all the time, which I don't understand.
Look,
it seems like women can't do anything right when it comes to you, right? They're stay-at-home moms, they're traditional,
I understand that you can personally attack me. That's fine.
I'm not personally attacking you.
Okay.
These are things that you have said on the record multiple times.
But if you cared about equality, you would care about false accusations.
I do care about
false accusations are already a crime, just so you know.
False accusations,
No, you don't.
You don't know me? You don't know what I care about?
Look, all right. Let's talk about rights that men do not have. Men do not have the right to be enlisted in selective service. You know, we have 120...
She said that wrong, but I know what point she's trying to make. The reality, though, about the draft is... Wait. Who's president? Oh, shit. If any president was dumb enough or terrible enough to reinstitute the draft, it would be Trump. But that's on Trump. The reality is... Oh, by the way, No Child Left Behind automatically registered you for the draft. Fun fact, when I got my GED, I found out that No Child Left Behind had automatically registered me for the draft. Side note, I got my GED because I was homeschooled, just so you know.
25K men who were drafted and buried overseas. Think about that over a second. You talk about the oppressions of the past, but how many...
What war are you talking about, bitch? We haven't had a draft since Vietnam.
Men died in World War I and World War II and had no choice. And yet Anna complains about...
Women had significantly less rights during that period of time. Shut the fuck up.
About oppression. Men do not have the right to face their accuser in court when they have a false allegation and for personal protection orders that strips constitutional rights away from the man. Women go before a judge and say they don't feel safe, and more than likely a PP order will be issued. The man was not in court, had no say, has no defense, and does not get to face his accuser. That is done en masse, and many service...
I believe his legal representation still has to be present, though.
Men and first responders lose their careers over this because it strips a man's Second Amendment rights away based on...
If you're violent, you shouldn't have... I don't have a problem with abusive partners not being able to buy a gun. And if you can't understand why I wouldn't have a problem with that, then you're not thinking it through. I want you to think about it. If a man will hit the woman he supposedly loves, then he will probably shoot a guy on the street.
No evidence. Men do not have the right to raise their children. Divorce is no fault, but when it comes to child custody, it's
no-fault divorce saves lives, men's specifically.
Always the man's fault. He loses his children to the system. 96 hours a month the father does not make. Men have longer prison sentences. Women get a third of the time for the same crime. Where are the...
Wait, is this all about that one guy again? If it's not, she shouldn't have used that specific statistic. I mean, to be fair, in terms of brainwashing people, it's a good move. But, like, it is incredibly dishonest if that's not what she's talking about.
The feminists fighting for equality on that issue. There has been rampant discrimination against better qualified men in hiring across multiple industries. Men pay more child support, and
There's no evidence for that. Most studies indicate that women replace mediocre men.
Support orders are not enforced at the same rates between men and women. Women are more likely
women pay
not
child
to
support.
pay
Fascinating.
and are not on our process.
That's a good point. She just, by even admitting that women pay child support, that is a devastating hole in her entire argument, because it means that there are scenarios in which women could pay child support, which means that there are going to be which means that it technically is equal. It just normally comes out the other way because of the men's career.
Prosecuted for non-payment at lower rates. Men cannot opt out of parenthood. Men have very few domestic violence shelters and are not taken seriously.
That actually is a problem. The lack of men's shelters is a real problem, although the demand is not as high.
When they're domestic violence victims.
I agree on that.
White men in particular are discriminated against when it comes to hiring and educational attainment.
That's not, you can't prove that. There is no data to prove that. Literally the only data that indicates this argument is the hiring of people who aren't white men. The reality is that the majority of people in the workforce are still white men, and the majority of people in positions of power are still white men.
True.
The Duluth model is a model that law enforcement, courts, and counselors use automatically that assumes men are the aggressor. The tender years doctrine is a guideline in divorce used to...
You can't go around saying that men and women will never be equal because men are stronger than women, and then be surprised when that fact is actually used against men.
Justify removing the father from the child's life. The only institutional sexism that exists is institutional sexism that discriminates against men in favor of women. Furthermore, U.S. courts do not require receipts to show how that money is spent by the custodial parent unless there's overwhelming evidence of starvation, malnutrition, or severe child abuse. There are numerous...
Which would normally be the things you'd be concerned about with that money, to be honest.
Pause. You want the government to check receipts and see, like...
Let's let her respond to some of that.
Hold on, let's understand something. You want government to be so big that you literally have the government looking at receipts to see what a mother is spending the money on?
That would also be hugely expensive to the government.
That's insane.
I want no child support, no alimony, 50-50.
Yeah, because you're crazy and you don't...
It's not a realistic expectation, Pearl.
...live in reality.
I want equality. I'm more of a feminist than you, Anna. Because I...
The fundamental belief of feminism is merely that individuals should be able to choose their own destiny. That's it. I mean, it gets more complicated than that, but I'm not the type of person who you would want to talk to about that. You would want to talk to, you know, someone who studies that shit. I'm saying shit colloquially. I'm not implying that it's bad.
I say if you want to vote, be in selective service. Be on the front lines just like the men are.
Who do you think gives birth to and raises those soldiers?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because you assert that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they're not all in mandatory military service.
I say be equal. You want to vote, do what the men do. Men are fined $125,000.
Should women be included in combat? Should women be included in combat?
Yes.
Okay.
Do what the men do.
Fair.
There are female soldiers. There are women in the military. It's a thing. It happens. They're in there. This undermines Pearl's argument, generally speaking. But also, her argument is bullshit. She's trying to find a place in society where it appears that men are unequal for some reason. The draft itself is terrible, and no leftist, such as myself, would ever support it.
Do what the men do.
Yeah, fair. Agreed. Next? Next? Nothing? Okay.
She agreed with your point, Pearl. That means you have to move to the next point.
I want to know what your ideal woman is. Because if you are a traditional conservative woman who's married, staying at home, raising kids, you trash them.
There's no such thing as a traditional woman. They cannot be traditional in 2025 because women will always have the leverage.
What does that mean? What does it mean that women will always have the leverage?
Women have child support to fall back on. Women have alimony. So automatically...
10% of divorces end with alimony settlements.
And
10%.
And they go...
You just ignore the stats.
Also, as soon as that woman remarries, the alimony goes away. Like, that literally ends as soon as you get married. Which is why some men are very excited to hear that their ex-wives are getting remarried.
From men to women. They go from men to women. Billions of dollars every year.
I thought you said earlier that women are paying alimony.
Billions of dollars of wealth every year is transferred from men to women.
Some women do pay alimony.
Mm-hmm. Based on what? Where are you getting that information from? Are you just making it up?
Look, we have it. We're excited. We can get it to you at the end. You didn't want to submit. Where are your sources? You didn't want to submit them ahead of time. You did.
The Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I cited everything I mentioned. Pull it up. Pearl, the main thing I want people to understand.
The thing is that Pearl is ultimately this girl who's used to having a show where she can just say whatever she wants, and then also likes to go on podcasts with misogynists who agree with her. She is not used to this. Now, she has debated a few online debaters, and it's never gone well for her. But this is live. This is in person in an auditorium in front of people who are clearly her followers.
Understand, okay? Pearl's gonna trash women no matter what. That's fine.
I'm not trashing
But
them.
my biggest gripe with
Yes, you are, Pearl.
With you is you're discouraging people from entering marriages.
I don't tell men what to do. Sell me on.
You
okay,
advise men to avoid marriage.
Sell me on marriage. What do men get out of marriage?
That's sad. It's sad that people think that. It really is. You get a partner, you get a teammate, you get to build a life together, and it's beautiful.
There are actually, like I said earlier, you live longer, you get more rights to your kids. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to marry a woman.
I feel like misery loves company in this situation.
Oh, you get tax benefits, you can accumulate, as long as your marriage lasts, it makes it easier to accumulate wealth.
And how would you know what you...
God, you can hear their fucking neck beards when they talk. The audience people, I mean.
Get out of marriage if you haven't experienced marriage in the first place. I'm not saying that as a personal attack. I really hope that Pearl meets the love of her life and gets married. It's not about that. But you trash it without really understanding what the benefits are.
Why do we have phrases like it's cheaper to keep her?
Pearl.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Pearl, your brain is rotted. Your brain is rotted. Really? Really? You're going to defer to an old adage? To a colloquialism? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me, Pearl? Are you fucking... Listen, maybe I'm expecting too much from Pearl here. Because, like, the reality of Pearl is that Pearl is a girl woman, whatever the man girl, whatever the woman equivalent to man boy is, and her perspective on life is entirely based on the experiences she had in a sorority. And if you've watched enough Pearl, you'll realize this. And she does not like women. I don't know what happened to her in that sorority, but it fucked her up.
Pearl.
Answer the question.
Divorce is expensive. And by the way, on purpose, to discourage people from getting divorced in the first place.
Why do we have phrases like happy wife, happy life?
Because it's true.
Pearl, would you want to be married to a miserable bitch? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course your life's going to be easier if your wife is happy. And to be fair, your relationship is going to be better if you keep each other happy. It's the same, like, it's a saying, first of all, it's a men's saying. I don't know if there's a women's equivalent, but there should be, because women benefit from men being happy. Believe it or not, Pearl. Holy shit. She is literally appealing to, like, these weird common they're idioms. That's what the word I was looking for. They're idioms. She's referring to idioms. But the thing is, there's millions of idioms and they don't fucking mean anything. They just sound meaningful. They just sound deep. But the reality is there's hundreds of idioms that just cancel each other out. Like absence makes the heart grow fonder, or out of sight, out of mind. These can't both be true. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's... Pearl, your brain is fried.
Same with happy husband, happy life. I don't want to come home to an angry husband.
But that's not a phrase.
Do you have any other, like...
Because it doesn't rhyme.
Catchphrase or slogan you want to throw at me?
What do men get out of marriage?
They get a partner.
That gains 25 pounds in the first 5 years.
Men get pretty...
Pearl, shut the fuck up with this dumb bullshit. First of all, not all women get fatter. Most women gain weight in college. Most women gain weight after pregnancy, a thing that wouldn't happen to them if it wasn't for the man in that situation. Jesus Christ. Pearl just hates women.
Fat too. I don't know if you've done a comparative analysis on that. They actually end up gaining more weight than their wives do. And who cares?
That's not surprising. That's not surprising at all.
Men.
I mean, have a conversation with your partner. Encourage her. Be an adult.
How can men and women be equal?
Especially if she's giving you children.
How can men and women be equal when one is expected to die for the other?
I don't.
So, first of all, in a relationship, in a true love scenario, like if you actually like read love stories or whatnot, there is an implication that if you love someone, you should each be ready to die for the other one. What Pearl is referring to is misogyny. Just men who, because it's tied into what being a man is. It's a thing that you've been taught is like, oh man, if you're gonna be a real man, then you gotta be brave. If you're gonna be a real man, then like of course you can't let anyone kill your wife. That would make you a coward. I mean, it technically would make you a coward, but the point is that like this isn't a thing feminists did. Feminists would say your wife should have a gun to save your life. Like, Pearl.
Expect anyone to die for anyone else. I don't know what that even comes from.
Yeah, but men are willing to die for you every day. The men in the police force, the men in the military.
The men in the police force are clearly not willing to die for you every day. That's why they're fucking trigger happy. That's why the police have a lower level of rules for engagement than soldiers. That's true, by the way. The military works way harder to make sure that soldiers don't accidentally kill the wrong people than any police force in America does.
What about the women in the police force?
They're not.
It's true, we got those too.
They're 10%, and they cause so many problems.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Their existence undermines the argument.
Who cares what percentage women make up of the police force? They're in the police force. My sister-in-law's a cop, actually.
They can't do the same jobs.
They do the same jobs. There are women who are patrolmen. Do you know why? Because in America, we just let cops shoot people, okay? Fun fact, women can be really good at shooting people. I don't know if you know that, Pearl.
There's videos on the internet everywhere of women getting their
guns
guns taken because they're not strong enough.
Are you just making things up?
No.
But once again, that would be anecdotal evidence because it's not a full picture of how many times that ever happens. Side note, if men have had their guns taken from them by criminals. This happens. Not all men and not all women are physically equal to all other men and all other women. Some women are bigger and stronger than other women. And some men are weaker and smaller than other men. Pearl, this is a waste of everyone's time.
Pearl, what are you doing? Like, seriously. Next question.
Oh, this is the moment.
Do you realize how good you have it in this?
She like... I heard someone on the internet say that she looked like she rebooted, and that is exactly what that looks like.
Country?
Absolutely. Best country in the world.
Yeah, I don't know where Pearl thought that was going to go.
You get to live the life you live at the expense of men.
No, that's not true.
Not really. It's not really. I mean, unless you want to make an argument against capitalism, which exploits us all and grinds us all into the dirt, then no, not really. Men and women put their lives on the line every day in a number of different ways. Especially in America, the chances of you dying in childbirth is shockingly high for a first world country.
True.
That is true.
Show me how.
Do you know how many men die every year?
Doing what?
There are men that die every year to get you crab.
How many women die every year during childbirth?
Not many.
Also, the crab fisherman's a wild... I mean, it is a super dangerous job. Side note, I'm pretty sure women might still do that job, but so it's a wildly niche job to reach for as your example. And what if Anna was vegetarian? Then she could just say, I don't eat crab. Pearl, Jesus.
This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed country. So a lot
What I said?
of women do die as a result of pregnancy and childbirth, yes.
God damn, are you just not used to people actually pushing back? What is she laughing at? She coping?
This is painful, man. Do you have any other questions for me?
Not right now.
All right.
I haven't been paying too much attention to the clock, but did she just end her interrogation early?
Should I move on? Like, what are we doing now?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's just jump in here. So why don't we do this? I'll ask you one, and then I'll ask you one, and we'll kind of go back and forth. I kind of half jokingly said at the beginning, like Pearl had mentioned, I think you actually said it here too, that you believe you may be more of a feminist. Do you consider yourself to be a feminist, and how would you define that?
I don't consider myself to be a feminist, mainly because it's a low.
Oh, I guess she's not a TERF, she's just transphobic.
Loaded word, and there are certain outcomes from certain waves of feminism that I don't agree with, particularly
The ones that support trans people.
minimizing the importance of men in society. I do think that there is, especially the third wave of feminism that's done that. I'll
be real with you, man. I mostly studied older feminism when I was in college, and I only really studied it in terms of art. So, like, I don't know what the third wave feminists did, but a lot of people seem to really not like the third wave feminists. So, and I'm saying I've talked to other feminists who don't seem to like the third wave feminists. I don't know what they did, but it seems to be pretty. They got some pretty bad reviews, even from people who are feminists. So I don't know what happened.
Personally really value masculine men, and I don't appreciate feminists speaking on behalf of all women in regard to what women prefer. I think the Me Too movement started off as a legitimate grievance with women who were...
What's hilarious is this is revealing that their positions are actually closer than one would imagine. It's just that Pearl takes those positions to a level that is so stupid, it's noticeable.
Legitimately abused, and it devolved into something laughable and ridiculous, especially when, someone like Aziz Ansari gets accused of being like some sort of sexual predator when he...
I will say Aziz Ansari and Garrison Keillor, maybe Al Franken. I would want to look into that one more. But it does seem like there's a handful of men who probably got treated a little bit harsher than they should have been in this scenario.
He clearly wasn't. So I just don't like how loaded that word is. What I actually genuinely want is equality among the sexes. I'm not looking for women to have an upper hand over men at all. But we need to be based in reality, and we need to look at the statistics and figure out what's really going on. If men are getting a raw deal as a result of divorces, then yeah, the laws need to change. And I genuinely thought prior to this debate that they were getting the raw end of the deal.
I am definitely going to have to cut this down, or maybe I'll split it up. Maybe I'll split it into 2 parts.
But
the algorithm will like that, even if I don't know if it will actually benefit me personally.
As I researched this, I realized I was believing in outdated myths. So, yeah.
Pearl, let me ask you this. Do you believe and obviously you are citing a lot of anecdotal stories. I do think it's fair to point out, every anecdotal story is someone's story, right? So they're not fake.
That fails to understand the problem with using anecdotal arguments in an argument. Jesus Christ.
Stories, and they're not meaningless, obviously, to the people who live those realities. In a lot of cases, they're very painful.
Like, okay, here's the problem. And this is gonna be. Let's say that you meet someone who was, gang molested by a bunch of clowns. Okay, that's horrific. That's one of the most horrific things you could think about. But I'm willing to bet you that it doesn't really happen all the time. That would still be that person's experience. That would still be like their trauma, for sure. But how many other people is that happening to? And at what rate? Because that's the argument you really have to that's the real basis of it. The question is, what does it mean for the wider picture of society?
Because of your platform, you speak to a lot of those people. How much is that informing where you're coming from in this debate? Is the real stories of people who have been hurt by this stuff?
I mean, I've interviewed 1,000 people. I interviewed a guy who had his kid transitioned and there was nothing he could do about it. I interviewed another guy.
Good. He shouldn't. Good. I'm glad he couldn't stop it. Fuck you. Although I kind of want to hear what Anna has to say about that. I wonder if it was that Canada guy.
He spent $300,000 trying to get his kid back. He actually went overseas to Ukraine during the war, just trying to be in his kid's life. So yeah, it impacts.
There are some important details that are clearly missing from that story. Why Ukraine? Was his kid in Ukraine?
Impacts it a lot. Yeah, I've interviewed so many men that want nothing more than to just be a dad and see their kid. They don't even care about the money. They just want to see their children. And if you ask Anna, it doesn't exist. But if you ask any man, everybody knows somebody that it's happened to. And commentators can,
But that's not how you form a full picture. It is very possible for a large number of people to know 10% of the population. Do you understand what I mean? 10% of a population is still a large number of people, but 10% is not a common occurrence of an event. It will feel like it because you will always be like 3 or 4 degrees separated from it. But it doesn't mean that it actually happens all the time. That is an emotional appeal.
They can try to minimize it. They can talk from their ivory towers and pretend it's not happening, but there's a genocide of millions of men that's going on.
It's not a genocide. It's literally not a genocide. And I don't even know if it's millions of men. She quoted the number of men who commit suicide earlier. And the thing about that is that, first of all, actually, 1.8 million, which I believe is the number she said, she may have misspoke on the number, is actually less than 1% of the American population. There's almost 400 million people in America. It's like what, 380 something million people? Yeah.
On in this country.
When you use the word
genocide?
I was going to say
one.
Yeah, it's not a high enough number for a genocide. Genocide would imply the extermination. Genocide would imply that there was an active goal of removing males, period.
1.6 million men commit suicide, have committed suicide since 1970.
Similar rates of women also attempt suicide but fail because they usually don't resort
I said that earlier.
to more violent means of ending their own lives.
Right,
so they'll
but
take pills.
Why is it that every time we bring up men, you have to bring up women?
Because we're doing a comparative analysis here. You can't just throw out statistics without comparing it to what the...
Anna's right, and Pearl is dumb. It's comparative. They're doing a comparative analysis. She is doing a comparative analysis. The issue is that Pearl is positioning these men's sufferings as somehow being connected to women. Therefore, the comparative analysis is relevant. And she's also establishing the idea that men are unequal in our society in these ways, which means that the comparison is necessary to establish how unequal or equal they are.
The rates are among women.
What I'm pointing out is, I just pointed out that by 2050, more men will have committed suicide than all of the world wars combined. And your first response was, well, women commit suicide too.
Because it is a problem that is inflicting both sexes in this country. It is a tragedy and should be taken seriously rather than this weird war.
But it's not going to be taken seriously when you pretend it's not going on.
No one's pretending it's not going on. Men's suicide is very well known. Lots of people talk about it. It's just that you, Pearl, are specifically trying to bring it into a conversation about why men are abused by women. And I assure you that not all of those men committed suicide because of women. Although men are pretty dumb like that sometimes, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a solid portion.
It is going on. Are you kidding me? I mean, how many of our soldiers, our veterans, come back to the United States after multiple...
That's the thing, is the large portion of the number is veterans who have a lot of trauma from the war.
Deployments.
Like, she didn't say why that other soldier killed themselves.
Do not get treatment or help with PTSD and other mental issues as a result of being deployed multiple times.
Right.
Like, that's a real problem. How come you don't talk about that?
Yeah, but
you blame it on...
Pearl doesn't talk about it because it doesn't really explain what's wrong with women.
Marriage and divorce instead.
Right, because those soldiers come home to an empty house.
You think that...
Some of them weren't married. Wait, all soldiers are going to come home to an empty house if they're not married. Also, once again, it's illegal to cheat on a service member.
Divorce is the reason for most of these suicides.
Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after
How many
divorce.
more times likely are women to commit suicide after a divorce?
What about the women?
You don't know the number, right? Because you didn't even care to look into it.
What about the women, though? That's always what you go to.
But that's the debate, Pearl. That is the debate that you are both having.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to point out is feminists don't care about male issues. They don't. They do not care about equality. Because whenever you ask them for real equality...
Pearl, what do you think feminism is?
Pearl, my point is that suicide is not just a male issue. It is a huge problem in this country. Women who try to end their own lives are less successful because, again, they're less likely to use a gun, for instance, or hang themselves. They'll take pills, it'll fail. It's just a tragic thing all around. But if you actually care about suicide rates, then you would want to know what's causing the suicide rates or the attempts at suicide.
Divorce.
What can we do as a society?
No, you can't verify the amount of suicides that occur because of divorce just because the rate of suicide, just because the rate of attempted suicides after divorce is high. That's not how numbers work.
To help people to prevent that from happening, and you wouldn't make it specifically and solely an issue that inflicts one sex over the other.
Again, I mean, you're just proving my point because we talk about male issues, you keep bringing it back to the women.
Because your entire argument, Pearl, is that women are the reason men kill themselves. Oh my God.
I just want you to compare the stats you're spewing right now with something to compare it to.
Because without comparison, you can't be certain of the statistical relevance. What do I mean? Well, what I mean is if those numbers are in fact closer together than Pearl would like to comment on, then her entire argument falls apart. It means that divorce is just as bad for both parties. And look, I don't know the statistic for women. But the point is that Pearl, in order to make her argument in the first place, should know the comparison. If for any other reasons than to know how worried she should be about the answer to that question. Pearl has no idea what she's doing.
Do you think that women should be on the front lines of the military like the men?
If they can pass the
Aren't they? I feel like some are.
physical test necessary to do so, yeah.
Do you think women should
Anna Kasparian makes a fair statement.
be in selective service like the men?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and they
Okay, so Anna supports the draft, everybody. Anna supports the draft. That fucking bitch. Okay, so here's the problem with that question. So the problem with Pearly Thing's question is that it builds in an assumption that you would even support the draft. Most people don't. I don't even necessarily believe that Anna Kasparian does, although her answer would imply that she does, but I think she just answered that dumb. I'm not saying she does or doesn't, is what I'm saying.
They should be on the front lines as infantrymen.
If they are physically capable of doing it, yes.
That's fair, because if you're not physically capable of doing it, you put your rest of your squad at risk, which would kill men. And Pearly Thing should care about that. Yep.
Okay, so no.
Pearl, you are a dishonest piece of shit. Was that your entire... So, Pearl is now making the argument, and Pearl is now claiming that women and men can't be equal because of their physicalities. That is the implication, because she took Anna Kasparian's statement of if they can pass the test, which is fair, because we don't even let men do that job who can't pass the physical tests. Pearly Things has just implied that women can't pass that test, so Anna's real answer to that question is no, which is fucking bullshit. A, because of the sexist assumption, and B, because it's a dumb trap. And it doesn't even work as a trap.
So you want to put people who aren't physically... I mean, obese men wouldn't be put on the front lines.
Do you think...
Not just obese men, for the record. I don't know why she chose to single out just the obese men. Plenty of men who have other physical reasons they can't be on the front line. I've had a total knee replacement when I was 30. Wild, right? Tumor ate my tibia.
Women should be jailed for false accusations.
Depends on what the false accusations are. If she's falsely accusing someone
No, that's fair. It should depend on what the false accusations are.
of rape, for instance, yes.
Just okay. Thank you. I agree. Do you think that child custody should be 50-50?
As long as the court determines that both parents are capable of being caretakers, yes.
Which is fair.
In fact, that's the ideal situation.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
All right, do you believe in alimony?
I believe in alimony in specific cases where
Alimony also has nothing to do with custody.
the woman decided to forego having a career and working, decided to stay home
And because fewer women do that, fewer women get alimony.
and raise the kids. In those cases, I believe she deserves alimony, yes.
But that's a privilege.
You're ridiculous. Next, move
Wait,
on.
you said it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
that it's a privilege to stay home
especially
with your
coming
kids.
from a girl who grew up in an affluent situation with incredibly wealthy parents. You don't know anything about struggling economically or financially. So to tell a single mother who decided to stay home and raise her children instead of work that she doesn't deserve a penny to raise her kids after a divorce is the most privileged piece of shit thing to say.
This is...
Anna's right. Anna's right. Anna's right. Anna cooked her.
Next.
This is the type of nagging that drives men to suicide.
Good.
I would not have leaned into that bit there, Anna. But, Pearl, Jesus Christ. Really? You're just making jokes now?
But I'm married and you're not, so... Next.
Jesus Christ. I get it.
What do you get, Pearl? What do you get? That this isn't a podcast? Have you figured out that this debate is not on a podcast yet?
A little harder to debate someone who's not an OnlyFans girl, right?
Fair. Although I bet there are plenty of OnlyFans girls. I don't know the actual number. But I'm pretty sure there are OnlyFans girls who would destroy her.
Never. I don't need to. Not that I'm judging.
It's why isn't paternity fraud illegal?
We've already determined that there can be civil consequences. Which makes it a civil offense, which means it's technically illegal. It's just not illegal enough to go to jail, which makes sense because it's primarily and also, I don't see how you would benefit from putting that woman in jail. Like, what would be the benefit of that necessarily? I understand that she's going to claim it would be to discourage the behavior, but like, you would who raises those kids then?
We've been over this already.
It's estimated 6% of men are fathering children that are not theirs.
I don't really believe your stats.
Also, 6% is nothing. That means 94% of the time that's not happening. Now, it would be a large portion. It would be a shockingly high number of the population because of how statistics work. But it still would mean that the vast majority of situations are not that. I also don't have any idea where Pearly thinks gets her fucking ridiculous statistics.
The American Blood Bank Association. Are you happy?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on. You said that is 6% of the situations, but then you also said that the statistic was that 1/3 of paternity tests were failed. Now, does that mean that you are deliberately leaving out information that ties those two elements together, which actually, I think she might be, based on things she said earlier, or are you just dumb enough not to understand how those statistics tie into each other?
That's wrong, and yeah, there should be consequences for that.
But there aren't.
Okay.
But there are.
We've already determined that there are civil consequences. Wait, was that just me Googling that, or did they bring that up? Because that was what I found, was that it is primarily civil consequence. You can sue. Although the overall laws and tenets vary from state to state. But most of the time you could have a civil case there.
And there should be, so we agree on that. Next.
Right, you can agree, but you haven't covered it. And that's my point, is you guys don't care about equality. You want freedom at the expense of men.
Okay, sure.
But that's not what that is. That's not how that works.
Next.
Do you think that men should have the right to opt out of fatherhood, since women have the right to opt out of motherhood?
No.
Bold move on Anna's part. Okay, so I've looked into this before. Some states, and it is a state thing, some states do allow men to give up all their parental rights at the beginning and then not have to pay child support or anything. That is a thing that some states allow. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know how you get into it, but it is apparently a thing. It is not in every state, and I'm not sure what the restrictions or requirements are for. But I did briefly look this one up before. Although it is interesting that Anna has said no to that. I wonder if we're going to swing into abortion now.
Put a condom on. You don't want to have children, put a condom on.
Or require him to wear a condom. That's equal.
Yeah.
That choice is equally irresponsible.
He's the one with the Johnson.
The issue there, of course, is on personal... Think of it defensively, okay? Ultimately, you can only truly control for your own birth control methods. Okay? The woman might decide she might be on the pill, might have a patch, might have a IUD, a bunch of things. Can't necessarily see all those things, but whatever. If a man puts on a condom or gets a vasectomy or or hopefully there's a better third option in the future, then that man is inherently protecting himself. And that's sort of how you have to look at most birth control, for both trust and for both trust reasons and, of course, just your best personal self-interest. If a man is in a situation where he is putting all of that on the woman, he better fucking trust that woman, is what I'm saying. Because that's dumb.
He gets to decide what he does with it.
I think I'm more of a feminist than you.
Sure.
No, she's not. Pearl doesn't understand feminism. Pearl quotes, you can have it all the time, which she believes is a feminist text, but it's not a feminist text. It's a book from the 80s trying to sell Reaganomics to women.
Go great. Congratulations. This is the longest 30 minutes of my life.
Okay, I'm going to interject again if I can.
All right.
I was going to say, I don't think this guy's a very good moderator. Or at least he's doing a bad job on this one. Maybe he does better on other debates, but he's quite bad at this one.
Just kidding. So one thing that I do think is happening is that there is a shift that is taking place in America, and I think you both have alluded to this a little bit. And so I'll ask Anna first if you would agree with this. Because you said that going into this debate, you thought a lot of these things were true.
Right.
And you started to see that maybe these things were not as true as you had believed. Do you believe that your previous belief was informed by nonsense, or the fact that states and legislatures and courts are changing what they're doing over the last few years in terms of alimony and parental time and that kind of thing?
I think that with more women
In fairness, those things could both be true.
participating in the workforce, it's hard to argue that, women should get paid alimony when they have their own income. So yeah, I think that the culture has changed, the workforce has changed, and as a result of that, the courts weigh whether or not something like alimony makes sense. And look, much like Pearl, I had heard the horror stories, and I was basing much of my worldview on situations like this based on anecdotes, basically. And so when you look at the statistics and the broader picture, you have a clearer idea of what's actually happening in the aftermath of a divorce.
Would you be willing to concede at least that maybe some of the reasons some of these things are shifting is because of people like Pearl and others?
I would not. No. I mean, arguably, I would be willing to go with some men's rights activists have definitely helped with this. But my exposure to men's rights activists is that only a few of them are serious and most of them are just grifters.
Others who are drawing attention to these stories, because I think we could all agree that until recently, a lot of those stories were just stories you'd hear from other people, and it was not allowed in media at all. It was not discussed.
I don't think that's true. I feel like I have seen this talked about in the media. Is this not the media?
Would you at least concede that?
I'm sure that there are advocates who have fought to maybe change the way these court cases.
I'm pretty sure that we've had a number of serious dramas about parents, no, this has been talked about. The unfairness of this type of situation has been talked about. It's a major plot point in the movie Liar, Liar. Holy shit. I'm so glad I've got this autistic brain for media. But yeah, no, the major plot points of Liar, Liar actually line up with the things that you're saying here right now. The thing that you're claiming is not talked about in the media, which is how men are sometimes treated unfairly in divorce court, that's a major point in Liar, Liar. That's a thing put forward in that movie.
Play out, sure. I don't know about Pearl, though.
I understand. We're in the debates. You can't give too much credit.
If Pearl has influenced the population, we're cooked.
Pearl, in your experience, the men that
As a society, I mean.
you talk to, do you see a difference in terms of the age of those men, where maybe it's getting better for some, because I would take it that some of the guys who were a little older and have been through this in the past, the courts are starting to recognize and realize that maybe it's not very fair?
It's actually very probable.
No.
No?
No.
Why?
Based on what, Pearl?
And why do you believe that? You think the courts are completely
I mean,
oblivious
there's men that write into my show every day just talking about how much they want to be fathers. So,
a lot of incels want to be fathers, too. Doesn't really mean a lot.
I hope it changes, but right now I would say no.
Do you think it's fair that all...
The thing is that she's not going to hear from the people who don't. She's not going to hear from the people who are glad to be out of their kids' lives. I don't like those people, but the point is that they exist and they undermine Pearl's arguments, and of course they wouldn't write into her. Because what would be the incentive?
all of the young women who were preyed upon as minors by Jeffrey Epstein are now experiencing yet another administration engaging in a cover-up?
This is coming a little out of left field. Let's see where she's going with it.
Or was it the female's fault for being preyed upon by a disgusting pedophile? I'm just curious.
What kind of question is that?
I think it's a pretty straightforward one.
I mean, the question is straightforward, but I actually can't blame Pearl for being a little taken aback by this. Although, to be fair, the question does relate to Pearl's overall philosophies and points.
That has nothing to do with the topic.
No, it does, though, because you're talking about the unfairness of our court system, especially as it pertains to
Oh, I see. I see where you're going with it now.
Divorces. But we're talking about a guy who got a sweetheart deal after raping minor girls, and then even after that, multiple administrations, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter, engaged in a cover-up, ensuring that those victims would never get justice.
And this has to do with this.
I mean, you want to talk about the unfairness in the court system and how terrible it is for men. What about how terrible?
I see the thing I see what Anna's doing, but like I don't think this was a good move on Anna's part. I think it's like I see the point she's trying to make, but like I think it's just Pearl is not smart enough to understand it, and it's something that a large portion of the audience is it's going to feel like. Even I said it felt left field, and yeah.
Terrible it is for women.
Look, that has nothing to do with anything.
It has a lot to do
I
with
think
what
in
we're
fairness,
talking
you
about.
got to admit that's an anecdote too in comparison to the overall statistics.
It's a pretty big anecdote.
He's a big anecdote, but he's also an untouchable anecdote, right? He's
I don't
a
think
little
it's
different than
untouchable.
most,
I think it's
than most
super
people.
touchable.
I mean, he got arrested and he died in prison. I don't know if he's that untouchable, bro.
So let's go back to actually hold on. We got 10 seconds, so we won't hold on. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to take a break. We're going to come off of the stage, and then we're going to actually go up to the analysts and get their take on this first 30 minutes, all right?
Sounds
so take
good.
it away, Sam. Good job.
All right, so that's part 2. Yep, splitting it up. There's going to be a third part. Probably won't get watched by nearly as many people, but what the hell. The algorithm will appreciate the fact that I'm pumping out content, because the algorithm is a slave driver. But anyways, thank you for tuning in. Something I've noticed while editing this is that, like, there's not, like, at a certain point I realized I am not actually sure what the topic of this debate is supposed to be. Like, I'm not even sure if these ladies are arguing from the same direction. It's very, like, what is the central topic we are actually debating here? It doesn't really seem like that is clear, and I blame Pearl, and not just because it's easy, but because I don't think Pearl knows how to actually build a real argument without making emotional propagandist appeals. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Hope you tune in for part 3. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whoever you are. Like and subscribe.